Are we to
Okay, so good morning. We are on the last line of Daf Mem Bet Amud Bet 42b. We are continuing in the third chapter of Maseches Basra, and in that chapter we are discussing the concept of chazaka. Chazaka has several meanings. We saw a couple of them yesterday, actually, but here we're talking about, in general, we've been talking about the concept of chazaka as if you are in possession of something. We assume that you are the owner, as long as you have a legitimate claim to being there, as long as you've been there for a certain amount of time. It could be that amount of time is just a moment. If we're talking about movable property, it could be that amount of time is 3 years if we're talking about real property. But the bottom line is that that's what we're talking about. Now, yesterday we saw, let me share my screen. Yesterday we saw that Shmuel made 3 statements based on the concept that was raised in our Mishnah, the Mishnah that we learned yesterday, that about partners being able to get a chazaka in each other's property. So we said yesterday, we saw that Shmuel said yesterday that partners, one, can establish a chazaka in their property, and that was what we talked about yesterday. What would be that situation? Now we're going to talk about, can they testify on behalf of one another? And in fact, yesterday, Shmuel said that they can. He said 3 things. He said that they can establish a chazaka, they can testify on behalf of each other, and 3, that they are like paid watchers for each other. Now, we only analyzed statement number 1 yesterday. Now we're going to analyze the other 2 parts of Shmuel's statement. Yesterday we analyzed the first part because there was another statement by Shmuel where he said partners cannot establish a chazaka. So we explained how we can understand that potential contradiction, and we were able to resolve that. And now we're going to pick up on the final line of Mem Bet Amud Bet as we discuss the second and third parts of Shmuel's statement before we move on to another topic. So again, last line, last 3 words on Mem Bet Amud Bet. Umeidim zelazeh amai nogin be'od edusenhein. How could you imagine a situation where partners would be able to testify against one another? They have an interest in the testimony. And Rashbam explains, top Rashbam, we'll do the second, we can do both of them. Amai me'idim zelazeh. Why do we allow them to testify against one another or on behalf of each other? Nogin be'edu sanhein. They are involved in that litigation. Because as long as 2 partners have not divided the field completely, if one of the complainants, if a complainant comes and takes away part of the field, both of them are going to lose. So in the end, it turns out that the person is testifying on his own behalf. You can't be a witness to testify on your behalf. It doesn't count as a witness. You're a litigant. Litigants don't count towards calculating the 2 witnesses concept. So here's what we're talking about as we pick up again at the end of the first line on Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Because of lay, where the testifying partner wrote for the other partner, dinu dvarim ein li al sadazu. I have no interest whatsoever in this field. Meaning, I have no dinu dvarim. I have no claim. I have no words. I have no litigation possibility. I have nothing about this field. And Rashbam explains the Kasav lay. Take a look, 3rd line in the Rashbam and Gimel Amud Aleph. Hai meyid lahai machzik. That when he's testifying, the person who's testifying for the person who's holding, right? So one partner is holding the property and the other partner is testifying. And he writes, the person who's testifying writes for the person who is holding. Dinu dvarim ein li imcha. I have no litigation. I have no potential litigation. I have no words with you. I have no complaint against you. B'chol hasadeh, in all of this field. Va'afilu al chelki, even on the part that I'm supposed to get. Shakol shelcha, because everything belongs to you. V'hachi mashma din udvarim lo yehe li al sadezu. That the implication is that of saying dinu dvarim that I don't have on this field, and that's what the implication is of saying that. V'lashon chachamim hu. This is the language that the chachamim established. Lomar, in order to say, ein li b'makom, I don't have in this place, lo yehe li, there's nothing for me. V'hilkach kevan denasan lo chelkom. And now, since one partner has given to the partner who's occupying the field his share of the partnership, so meid alah, now he can testify on it. Delo nogea be'edus, he's no longer involved in the item any longer. Who? The hachinami, and here too, havamatzu l'terutze kishehikne lo chelko. That and similarly, when we're going to now say that he's going to make a kinyan for him, we could have said in the beginning that you made a kinyan, but we were trying to say something extra. We're teaching us something extra. That this language might be considered like a gift. Now, the Gemara now asks,
aren't they partners?
What was that?
Aren't the two of them?
Yes,
partners?
exactly.
How can he say I have nothing to do with the property in which I'm a partner?
Exactly. That's exactly what he's saying. In order to be able to testify for the other partner, he's saying that I no longer am a partner with you. And that's exactly what that's the case where we're going to allow one partner to testify on behalf of the other partner.
Longer part.
Yes, that's true. It's a little bit misleading. The language of umeidim zalazeh is a little misleading because it certainly sounds like you would be allowed to testify while being a partner, but we're now going to qualify and effectively remove that possibility. So v'chikasav lo. So again, we're picking up now end of the second line.
So what he gave it to him as a gift, is that what the Rashbam wants to say?
Yes, that's exactly what the meaning is of at least at the moment that we're understanding of I have neither a claim nor an argument about this field. That's what that means. Because of lo. So now again, the Gemara asks the question. So because of lo, my habi. What does it make a difference if the guy wrote this? But Tanya, we have the following principle. Ha'omer lechaveru dinu dvarim ainli al sadezu. I have no claim or argument about this field. The ainli esekba, or he says that I have no concerns about it. The yadi misulakas mahemenu, or my hands are withdrawn from it. Lo amar klum. You haven't actually said anything. You have not effectuated a gift by saying that. Rashbam, back into Rashbam. It's Rashbam about 10, 12 lines down in the Rashbam, in the narrow lines of the Rashbam. V'yadai Yehu misulakos lo amar klum. That when he said that he said that his hands withdrawn, he didn't say anything. So all three of these kinds of languages, the kevin de kvar yeshlo chelik besadeh, because this partner already had an interest in the field, v'hu omer lo yehe li chelik bo, and now he's saying he doesn't have a chelik, ein zel lashon matana. This is not the language of a gift, l'chaveiro, to his friend. El lashon tfilahu. It's the kind of language of a wish, of a prayer. Halavai shelo yehe li chelik b'sadazu. I wish I didn't have this piece of this property. The kolzman shelo amar, and any time that the person has not said yehi natun lecha sadezu, that behold, this field is given to you, lo yatsa adayin mirushuso, it will not leave the original partner's hands. Ve'ein tofis lashon zeh ela b'davar she'adayin lo zachabo, that when it comes to the language of ein li din udvarim ein li al sadazu, that only works when it comes to something that has yet to come into your possession. So we are going to inherit something, and now I say to you, with respect to that field that we're going to inherit, ein li dvarim, ein li din v'dvarim al sadazu. So then, now when that inheritance actually comes through, so now you get the whole thing because we retracted from it. Lo zachabo. V'hu matana, v'hu matna alav, and he conditions on it, shalo yehe shalo, kishayavu hazman, sha'atid lizakot be'oto davar, that in the future time when he will eventually have the right to that, so that's when he's giving it up. The ein adam zocha bedavar bal karko, because we have a concept that people are not forced to accept things that are given to them. If I give you something and you don't want to accept it, and it's a good thing that we have that rule, because there are things where the liabilities associated with the item are greater than the gift. So as a result, it's important that we have this concept.
I give you my mortgage.
Are we assuming they're related here?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are
No,
we
we're not
assu-
assuming that
but how are they both inheriting something? Normally, the inheritance goes from father to son, let's say. But
100%.
you're assuming then that, I mean, if these partners had different fathers, then how would they be inheriting the same property together unless they're related?
Yeah, I understand the question. So the important thing to note is that the Rashbam is not saying that these partners are related. He is describing when it is that the words din udvarim ainli al sadazo will work. They will not work when you have two partners who are already partners, but it will work with respect to two siblings who are going to inherit a piece of property.
Right. Okay. That's my point. So they'd be related.
Yes, 100%. I mean, you can have two, but it would also apply, right? Even if you had, let's say, James and I are partners, and we agree that we are going to buy Stan's Field as a partnership. And then I say to James, you know what? Ainli dinu dvarim al sadazu. I don't really want any interest in Stan's Field. Well, then when James finishes the transaction and the transaction is complete, it will not be part of our partnership because I have retracted my interest in getting that piece of property. Now I may
But that's a difference between purchase and Yerusha.
No. Again, the same rule would apply if James and I were brothers and we were inheriting it from somebody, from our father. The same rule would apply, that if I say to James ahead of time, let me finish, please. If I say ahead of time that to James that I don't want a piece of that field that we're supposed to inherit from our father, so then we don't get that piece of field from our father. I won't get an interest in that field. It will all go to James. Okay, the point is that what we're saying now with respect to dinu dvarim ainli al sadazu is that only works to refrain from ever acquiring something. It does not work as a method of transfer. That's what we're teaching at the moment. So now
you're making a leap here, saying that, and the Gemara often, in many cases, has a whole argument to distinguish between one and one. Here, you're making the leap to say that the kicha, that kinyan through purchase is this equivalent to acquisition through Yerusha, and that's not, where's that established? We don't, in many cases, that distinct. That to say
100%. But Rashbam says the following: that when we say the ein tovis lashon zeh, the language of dinu dvarim ainli al sadazu, ein tovis lashon zeh ela b'davar she'adayin lo zachabo. It only applies where a person has not yet acquired the item. V'hu matna alav, and therefore he makes a condition with respect to it. Shalo yehe shalo, that it shouldn't become his. Kishiyavo hazman she'asid luzakos ba'oto davar. When it comes to the time that he will eventually have it, Rashbam has intentionally been vague about how that moment will come, where it comes into his possession, because the Rashbam is saying to us that it doesn't make a difference how it would come into James and my joint possession, whether it's an inheritance, whether it's a purchase, however it's going to come, or a gift. If I say ahead of that moment that I am not going to take an interest in it, well, then it becomes all of James's and not of any of mine. That is what the Rashbam is saying. Okay, so now let's go back. So now we've qualified that. So we've had a problem. We can't just say that the person wrote, that one partner wrote to the other partner, Dinu Dvarim Ainli Al Sadazu. So
The Rashbam says, he says, Lo Zachabavahu Matana Alav. He doesn't talk about purchase, as the second case you mentioned, where two of them decide we're going to purchase. Oh, no, I don't want to purchase. I don't want to be part of the purchase. He says Matana, which would imply that's a gift, or
no, it's a tanai. It's the language there is a one of tanai, not of a gift.
Oh, okay. You want it tonight?
All right, and we'll, if you have still additional questions, we can cover them at the very end. Okay. So we're going to modify what our first answer. So on the screen I put it as A1 prime. We got to adjust the answer. So what's the story? Here's what we're talking about. Kishikana miyado, where again James and I will be the partner, and so as a result, I have made a kinyan with James, or James has made a kinyan with me to take possession of the part that I was the ownership of. Okay, so I am no longer the owner. As Rashbam says, third line from the bottom of the narrow lines of Rashbam, Kishikana miyado, shutav chavero, kana miyado, right? Bekinyan Sudar, that James had, my friend, who's my other partner, has acquired my interest in the partnership through a kinyan sudar. V'hashda de'ika kinyan moel hatanai. And now that we made a kinyan, now my condition of saying that I have din v'dvarim ein li al sadazu, that will work, because I made a kinyan transferring first. Because now it's no longer in my possession. Now I have the ability to prevent it from ever coming into my possession. V'chikanu miyado. My hobby. Well, 1 second. Who cares that James bought it from me and took an acquisition from me, acquired it from me? Harema amida bifnei bal chovo. The problem is that if now I lent Stan I borrowed from Stan $1,000 3 weeks ago, and now I transfer my interest in this piece of property to James. Well, if I borrowed that money from Stan on a written contract, now that written contract has a claim against all my property, even property that I give away thereafter. And so now, even though I've made this kinyan sudar with James, Stan I still owe him. And if I don't have the liquid assets, Stan has the right to go and take the land that I transferred over to James. So as a result, when now Ken tries to take the land away from James, saying that he was the original owner and that the property really belongs to him, my testimony on behalf of James, I have definitely an interest in that testimony, because I want that property to remain as a method of paying back Stan. Exactly.
I think civil court in America holds the same way.
Well, it depends. It's a little more complicated. We have the concept of, in bankruptcy, we have the concept of like a fraudulent transfer. And this could be an element of the fraudulent transfer. And we have the element of mortgage property, that even if you transfer property, if somebody's owed money and they've recorded a mortgage, so then they can continue to collect against the new owner based on that recorded mortgage. So it's a little more complicated, but you're right that the same concept can apply in certain circumstances. Okay, so and after all, let's prove the fact that my testifying on behalf of James will be problematic, because I'm
stay with, because
because
If Ken established Hazaka, it would never even be yours.
it would never have been mine.
debt would come back to
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. And the debt would only come back to me, and I wouldn't have my debt paid off through property that I sold without a guarantee. De Amar Rabin Bar Shmuel, Mishmei de Shmuel, Hamocher Sada Lechaveru Shalo Ba'achrayus, if you sell property without a guarantee, Ein made lo aleha. You cannot testify about it. Mipnei shema'amido b'fnei bal chovel, because that property is a great setup for your creditors to collect from. And you want that because you haven't put a guarantee on it. If I were to sell my property to James with no guarantee, and now Stan comes and collects it, I have done amazingly well. I've sold my property to James. I owe James nothing. And now that I owe Stan nothing because Stan took the land away from James. Boy, I would have made out like a bandit. So anyway, so now we can't have that as a situation. So I did take responsibility when I sent it to James. And so now if Stan were to come and take the property away, so fine, I don't owe Stan anything, but I owe James the exact same amount. So as a result, now no, even if I give it to you as a matana, if I say that I'm giving it to you as a matana with a guarantee, then I owe you. It's remarkable, right? That even though if I give you a matana, a present with a guarantee, with effectively a lifetime guarantee, and now Stan comes and takes and collects it from it, I will owe you to make it up to you. So the value of the land. That's correct. The value of the land. So
then you still are nogea b'davar.
Yes.
No. What's interesting is right now I am no longer nogea b'davar in James's litigation with you, Ken, because now if you win, because if Stan were to come and take it away from James, I'm still going to owe James. But if Ken, you take it away from James, so then we're going to see in a moment that I won't have a guarantee, and therefore I won't have a guarantee on that, and as a result, I'm no longer nogea b'davar. But we're going to ask the question that you're probably thinking right now. We're going to ask that in 2 seconds. So so I agree that when I transfer to James my interest in the partnership, he is going to that I'm going to reimburse him for any loss. Well, in second, achrayas deman. Who am I guaranteeing that the property will not be taken away from James from? By whom am I giving a guarantee? Meaning a guarantee with respect to whose ability to take it away. If we're talking about where I guarantee James that no one in the entire world will take it away, well then kol shekein denikale. Now if Ken is litigating to take it away, certainly I'm nogea b'davar, because if Ken takes it from you, I'm going to owe both Stan and James. Exactly. So no, Ella achrayas de isa de asya le machmate. No, it's only the only thing that I'm guaranteeing is any guarantee against me. So that's only my creditors. So as a result, now let's look at the whole situation. If I establish it in James's possession, so against Ken, so if Ken were to win, I don't gain, I don't lose, and if James were to win, I don't gain or I lose, because even if James wins, if Stan takes it from him, it's not like my debt goes down. I still owe the same amount of money, and so as a result, I just owe James instead of Stan. Exactly, and so as a result,
you just owe Stan.
Exactly, and I still owe Stan. So my debt level doesn't change based on who wins the litigation between James and Ken.
So you could have a preference who you owe.
Yes, I could have a preference. And the interesting thing is that at the moment, and it seems like we're going to conclude that even though we will say often, and we have said before, and we are going to say, I think even still today, that sometimes a person will prefer owing person number one versus person number two, notwithstanding that we are not attributing any value to that. So that's an interesting thing, and we're not going to say that makes me nogea b'davar. That's
Really?
so it's an interesting thing that we learn out from this.
Do you think
Okay.
it's one on the
But he
one-
still has some attachment to this, right? Because he has the achrayut on the property.
Well, I have achrayut, but only with respect to people
Only for
who
creditors.
I owe, who are my creditors. And so as a result, when you try to take it from James, I won't owe James anything if you win. And that is why I can testify in that litigation. And although I have provided a guarantee with respect to that property, that guarantee is precisely what allows me to testify for James against you, Ken, because essentially that guarantee ensures that my liability won't change if Stan comes along and takes that land from him. And so as a result, I don't actually have a benefit in keeping that property with James. Okay, you can think about it more. If you have a question, we'll talk about it
Don't
again
have
at
a
the end.
benefit? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Even if
So-
you have other transactions.
Right, even if I have other transactions, I'm not going to, there's no benefit
in your balance sheet.
on my balance sheet. Exact, great way of phrasing it. There's no benefit on my balance sheet by having James hold on to it. And in fact, one could argue that because of the guarantee I've offered, if that guarantee has value, essentially by keeping it with James and not having it go to Ken, I actually end up with a potential liability on my balance sheet. But in any event, we're going to assume that that liability has no value again, or is evens out with any benefit that's associated with it. Okay, so now we're going to try 3 times. So what have we done? So let's go over where we are. We've gone through, we've modified our response 3 different times. And so what we're dealing is a partner can testify on behalf of the other partner where he has given the other partner his share. The other partner has made a kinyan in it. The granting partner has guaranteed the receiving partner to repay the receiving partner for any loss if the field is taken by any creditor of the granting partner, but not the person trying to take the property away in the current litigation. So I'm not guaranteeing the property for James against Ken, but I am against Stan. And so in that situation, now I'm going to be allowed to testify on James' behalf. So we have really narrowed the situation where I'm allowed to
You had a
testify
partnership.
with James. And
You
I
up your
gave up my rights to the partnership, and I've guaranteed
You have a
those rights
guarantee for creditors.
against creditors. So now I can actually testify for James. So, but the question is we're now going to have 3 challenges, 3 attempts to challenge. All are going to fail, but 3 attempts to challenge this possibility. Can somebody really withdraw from an object and therefore be able to testify about it? But Tanya, what about the following brisa? B'nai Ir Nignav Sefer Torah Shalahen, a terrible story where you have a town, a city where the Torah was stolen from them. Ain Danin B'dainei Otahir. The judges of that city cannot judge the case against the thief. V'ain Mevi'in Ra'aya Anshe Otahir. And incredibly, the people of that city can't testify as witnesses against the thief, which makes it very hard to catch the thief. Because, right? So the im isa. Now, in a second, if what we're saying is true, so then lisliku betray minahu, let 2 people withdraw from their participation in the Torah and udainu, and let them judge the case. Now, it's odd that it says 2 and judging. So there are 2 ways of noting this. The Yad Ramah points out that when it comes to Shmuel's opinion, Shmuel believes that actually in Sanhedrin, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, that actually when in cases of necessity, 2 judges can try a case. Other people say, no, when it says Dayanin here, it doesn't mean it literally judges. It means be involved in the case. And you could have 2 actually be as witnesses. So those are 2 approaches to how one deals with that. But that was a question that occurred to me when I was reading this language. So shiny Sefer Torah. So the answer is no. A Sefer Torah is a distinct situation. It's different because the Lishmiya Kai, it is something that you are using to hear. And so even if I were to withdraw myself from being an owner of the Sefer Torah, the fact that I could still hear the Sefer Torah would be a benefit that I would still have the possibility of enjoying. So that's answer number one and a question number one. Question number two. So now
They have to proceed from the town.
correct. They'd have to actually leave the town effectively, and so that where you're presuming that that's not a situation we want. So Tashma haomer tenu mana livnei iro. If somebody who is on his deathbed says that he wants to give money to $100 to the people of a town, ain't done in B'dainei Otair. Again, those judges in that city can't judge. V'ain mivi'in raya me'anshe Otair. And the people of that city can't testify about it. Amai lisalku beitrei dafshaihu l'dainu. So what? Let two people withdraw themselves and let them judge. Meaning, again, why not use this principle that we said that the partner can withdraw? So hachinam if Sefer Torah. No, we can say that that also is dealing with a Sefer Torah. Not a particularly satisfactory answer, but in any event, we'll see another answer as we come to the next case. So Tashma haomer tnu mana iri. So give $100 to the people who are poor in my city. Ain't done in B'dainei Otair. You're not gonna. You can't. The judges of that city can't judge. Vein mivin rayim anshe Otair, and the people of that city can't testify. V'tizbara. 1 second. What are we talking about? Aniyim shikle daine mufsile, that the judge, the poor people are supposed to take, and the judges are disqualified, are nullified. That doesn't make any sense. So Ella Ema ain done in B'dainei aniye Otair, ve'ain mivian raya aniye Otair. So we're going to change the language and say no. What it means is that the judges who are poor in that city can't judge, and the witnesses who are poor, the people in that city who are poor, cannot testify. V'amai listalku beitrei nafshai hulu danaihu. So again, let two of them withdraw and let them be involved in the case. So hachinami b'sefer Torah. So here too, we could say that we're talking about a Sefer Torah. V'amai kari lahu aniyim. Well, 1 second. Now, how in the world are you going to call these people aniyim? Da kol etzel Sefer Torah aniyim hein. That anybody who doesn't have a Sefer Torah is considered poor because they don't have a Sefer Torah. So, or you know what? Let's reverse our entire conversation. We could say the olam kediktani. Actually, leave the brisa as it was originally stated, aniyim mamish, and it means aniyim. And really, anybody, and we're prohibiting anyone from being from the city from being a witness or a judge. Uba aniyah.
Who's poor and who's not?
They're judging whether or not this gift was a valid gift. That's what they're judging. That's what they're judging. Okay.
Someone gave a gift to Kusai Folim.
Exactly. And now he's died. And so the question is it a valid gift? Was there enough evidence that in fact that was his intention? Because you are when one is on their deathbed, they are able to do more in the way of transferring than a regular live person. We're going to want to observe their wishes, and so as a result, maybe this would be a valid thing, and so we would have a case about it. And that the question is can they testify in that case?
Getting the money.
Correct, exactly. And now we're saying nobody, even if they're not the poor person in the city, you still can't be involved in the case. And why not? Because let's take a look. Uvaniya de Ramu Alaihu, and we're dealing with the poor people who are put on them. So what in the world does that mean? Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 5 lines up in the Rashbam from the very bottom among Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Kol habraisa kidikatani that diba'aniyim mamish mayri, that all the brisa is talking about real poor people. Ubidaine ha'ir she'enin maniyim. Kamar. And we're talking about the judges of the city who are not poor. demifsale, and they will be invalidated, disqualified. Udekakashalan dainin amai misle hare enogin nogin beedus. Well, second, why are you saying that they are disqualified? Why should they be considered nogea beedus and they involved in the testimony? Why should they be, how in the world does the testimony affect them? Well, ba'aniya de ramu alayhu al daine ha'ir perush ashir that when it comes to that, this is referring to the people of the city are going to be responsible for the poor of the city. This that the judges of the city. Perish ashiri ha'ir, the people who are wealthy in the city. As we'll see in a moment. As a result, they are nogea be'edus, because if in fact the three of us are going to have to give less tzedakah because of this gift, of this deathbed wish to give $100,000 to the poor of the city, so now we are going to have to give less. So as a result, that's why we're actually affected by the case. Well, one second, veheki dummy, because idekutz lahu leisve betray minayu my dekitz lahu udainu. Well, one second, what kind of situation are we talking about? If every person, we evaluate how much they owe, we set up a tax system, and we know what the person's going to owe. So fine, let two people already have given the tax, and they will now be able to testify in the situation because they've already paid for the poor people. So no, so we could say that there was no set assessment, and it's just whatever is needed. And so as a result, the fact is that we haven't yet set the amount. There's no way that we could determine an amount ahead of time. And so as a result, it's going to be problematic for the judges to try. They're not going to be able to withdraw from the case.
Does it have to be a monetary amount? Can it just be like the amount of work they have to do to work? The amount of work they have to do on behalf of the poor?
It seems more like it's the monetary piece, not the work that they have to do on behalf of the poor. Or we can actually say that maybe there is even an amount that's been set. And the judges will still benefit. To kaven de revach ravach, that once you have some left over, so now it's left over. And so as a result, the next year, you're not going to have to owe the same amount. And so as a result, therefore, that's going to be the situation. So we've tried 3 times to challenge our ability to withdraw. And in the end, we've said that if, in fact, I transfer my ownership, my partnership interest to James, and I give him a guarantee against all my creditors, and he makes a kinyan about it, now I will be able to testify on James's behalf against Ken's litigation over the property, because when Ken tries to say that it was always his. So I will be able to testify, no, I know that James was there for 3 years, and therefore he will be able to have assuming that he has a second witness along with me, he will be able to have a chazaka. So next, the next point that Shmuel made was Nas and Shomrei Sachar Zelazeh, that they are considered paid watchers for one another. Why should they be considered paid watchers? Don't we have the following principle, Shmira Babalim that it's as if they were being watched while the partner is there, and we have a principle that if I lend my computer to Stan and I go with my computer to Stan's apartment and Stan's typing away at the computer and it falls apart, so now Stan is not going to be liable. On the other hand, if I lend my computer, even if he rented it, well, especially if he rented it, but even if he just was a borrower, borrowers have the highest liability. So the point is that as a borrower, if he's using my laptop and it falls apart, God forbid, and Stan's using my laptop and it falls apart, God forbid, so he's going to owe me a new laptop if I don't go with my laptop to his apartment.
And if he's supposed to drink on it?
What?
If he's involved in the accident?
I'm still liable.
If I'm involved in the accident,
no, I'm involved.
Stan, of course he's going to be liable.
It's his computer.
You're saying there, okay.
Oh, if I'm standing there and he breaks it?
No, he does something by accident.
If he does something by accident, no. If I'm there then he's not going to be liable at all.
There's a drink next to it and he knocks over the drink.
Yeah, if he accidentally knocks over the drink, I don't think he's going to be liable. Now, if he's negligent in having put the drink there, etc. Again, negligence we have to separate for a moment. But in an ordinary case, if I lend him something and something bad happens, even if it's not any of his fault, when I'm not there, he's liable. And if I am there, he's not liable. So that's the important principle. So the question is why aren't the partners considered both present? Okay, and let's take a look at, you know what, I think that's clear enough. We don't need to do the Rashbam on it. So Amar Rav Papa explains, the Amar le shmor li hayom v'ani eshmor lecha l'machar. So the case is not that that I'm watching, James and I are the partners. It's not that I'm watching half the field and James is watching half the field. The answer is Rav Papa is explaining that no, James is watching the whole thing. And then he's watching the whole thing today. And tomorrow I'm going to watch the whole thing. And so as a result, now in that situation, James is a paid watcher for me today. And I'm a paid watcher for James tomorrow.
Did Shmuel say even if the other partner is watching? Even if the other partner is there?
Yeah, no. He did not add any details about the location of the other partner. The point is that he just said that the partners are considered shomer sachar for one another, that they're considered like a paid watcher. And so as a result, now as a paid watcher, James is going to be liable for theft and for any accidents that were to happen
only if the other partner is not present.
Correct. Exactly. And if on the other hand we're both watching together, well then we're both watching together, and so then as a result there would be no liability associated with it.
Who's paying whom?
No one.
No one's literally paying anyone. What we're actually talking about is the fact that effectively my watching for James today is payment for James watching for me tomorrow, and James watching for me tomorrow is payment for me watching today. And so as a result, that's why we're treated as paid watchers. Okay.
But there's a concept of payment between the two partners, that one is effectively paying the other one for the watching.
Exactly. That's exactly right, because we're each providing a good to the other. I'm watching today, James is watching tomorrow, or vice versa. And so as a result, we're doing things for the other one on the basis of the other one doing things for us. And so that's considered a valid monetary-like exchange. And as a result, we are considered paid watchers for one another. Okay, so now we come to a new case. Tana Rabbanan, Machar lo bias, Machar lo sada, ein meid lo aleha, mipnei she'achrayu so alav. That if I sell a house or a field, then again, based on the same concept, right? We're discussing potential issues with testifying when one is involved in the matter. So we're going to again go back to that topic, and we say that if I sell a field to James or I sell him a house, so then I cannot testify on his behalf in connection with it. Because I have guaranteed it for him. Makar lo para, makar lo talis. If I sell him a cow or a talis, well then I do have the ability to testify. Because I have not provided a guarantee. Now, Maishna, Reishna, Maishna, Seifa. What's the difference between the Reisha and the Seifa? After all, it seems like it's all about the guarantee. And that's what Rashbam explains. And how I don't understand. It's just it seems to be about the guarantee. So Amar Rav Sheshis, Reisha, Beruven Shegazel Sada Mishimon, Umachro Levi. That we're dealing with a situation where Reuven stole the field from Shimon and sold it to Levi. V'asi Yehuda become a arer. And now Yehuda comes out of nowhere and he is challenging Levi's title. And so as a result, now that the field was stolen from Shimon, Shimon is thinking to himself, listen, if I can keep it in Levi's possession, then I might be better off. Delo Lizel Shimon but we're going to say Delo Lizel Shimon la'asid Levi, that Shimon is not able to testify on Levi's behalf. Now, why would he? Denichala Le Dahadra, because he prefers that it'll be in Levi's hands because it's easier to prove that it belongs to him. Because now, if he proves that that Reuven stole it, well, then Reuven had no legitimate claim. And so as a result, Levi's claim based on buying it from Reuven falls away. And as a result, Shimon would get it back. But on the other hand, if in fact Yehuda is successful in his challenge to Levi, well, then maybe it never was Shimon's, and Shimon will have a much more difficult time trying to claim it. But Kavan to Asid the Levi, but one second, I don't understand. If in fact Shimon were to testify on behalf of Levi, wouldn't that undermine the entire ability of Shimon to get it back from Levi? Once he testifies for Levi that it belongs to Levi, how is he going to be able to get it back from Levi? He'll be reversing his own testimony. And remember, we've seen before that although we will allow a person to sort of be somewhat deceptive or not, or use some words to potentially facilitate one person keeping something over somebody else because it's his preference. But if you actually take an action, and here he's taking an action, right, because he's actually testifying in court, well, then in that situation, how is he going to be able to take it back from Levi? The Amar Yadana, so the Gemara answers, the Amar Yadana Dahai Ara Delav Yehudahi. So the answer is that Shimon does not testify that it belongs to Levi. He testifies that he knows that it does not belong to Yehuda. Ubahu zechusa de kamakpik le Levi. So in second, ubahu zechusa de kamakpik le Levi livgam Yehuda. But I don't understand. Let's let the claim that Shimon has, that he's going to be able to reclaim it from Levi, let him also use that to reclaim it from Yehuda. The Amar, no, he'll say Hasheni Noach li Rishon Kasher Imenu. As we've seen before, Shimon is going to say, no, listen, it's much easier for me to deal with Levi than with Yehuda. And so as a result, I'd much rather fight with Levi, and therefore I want Levi to win this first litigation. The Ibayasame, or you could say,
Yehuda? Was Yehuda claiming that he was the original owner?
Yes, he's claiming that he was the original owner, and that in fact, when we say that Reuven stole it from Shimon, he didn't steal it from Shimon. Yehuda is saying, really, Reuven stole it from me, and Shimon never was the owner in the first place.
So how does Shimon have a claim to say that he was the owner?
Because he disagrees and says Yehuda's lying. There again, as often the case, we're going to have somebody's lying here. Either Yehuda's lying or Shimon's lying. The Ibayasem, or we can say that the case is Kigon de Islay Sahade Lamar, Islay Sahade Lamar, that actually Shimon knows that Yehuda has witnesses about being a historical owner. And so as a result, what he wants to do is show that in fact he had been there, that in fact now by keeping it with Levi, now he's eliminated Yehuda as a component, because the problem is that once Yehuda gets it, we're going to have a litigation where it's 2 against 2, where both of them have witnesses. So v'amar Rabbanan ara hecha dekaima tekum. And if in fact the land were to go to Yehuda, then it would be that we would leave the land where it is. And so as a result, if the land were to get to Yehuda's possession, he would thereby get to keep it. So
Why?
Because it would end up being 2 versus 2. And when we have, Yehuda would have 2 witnesses in his favor. Shimon has 2 witnesses in his favor. So as a result, we keep the land where it is. We're not going to take it away from anybody. And so given that, it's crucial to Shimon to be able to have Levi win the litigation against Yehuda. And so as a result, again, we're dealing with a situation where now Shimon's testimony on behalf of Levi, or at least against Yehuda's claim, is going to be crucial. And so as a result,
Tainted.
that's a what?
Be tainted.
Well, it might be tainted, and that's why we're going to say that you can't do it. That's exactly, we're now understanding when we say Tanur Rabbanan machalo bias machalo sadeh, that you ain meid lo aleha. That's why you can't testify to it. So again, Rav Sheshes has explained what it is this case is about, and now we're going to ask the question. So the question that we're going to begin with tomorrow is, because we're not done trying to clarify this brisa. So we're going to ask why Rav Sheshes says that the case involves Ruvain stealing from Shimon and selling it to Levi, with Yehuda claiming it. Why not just have the brisa talk about Shimon trying to get the land back from Ruvain, with Yehuda claiming it? Why did you need to involve Levi? But for the answer to that question, you'll need to stay tuned for tomorrow's daf.
Thank you.
Oh, it's
So
a very complicated case.
So
Yes.
far, he wanted to say we only gave this to Braita
Yes,
for this very narrow case.
correct, for this
There's
very
4
narrow
different
case.
Parties.
Well, or that's why, that's really what the brisa is about, to talk about the achrayas responsibility in it. Now, we haven't really gotten to the sort of like, okay, well, what's the achrayas responsibility to involved? How does that make a difference, etc.? We haven't gotten to those details yet, but we're going to hopefully explain that, God willing, tomorrow. All right, we'll go back a little bit and do some of that, God willing, tomorrow again, because again, it really flows straight into tomorrow's daf. But look forward to continuing our learning together. Have a wonderful day.
Stay well.